Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. What did Einstein mean when he said these words? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the scientific proof behind why reality is literally an illusion and the 3 steps you can take to manipulate this illusion to reflect your desires and create the life that you want ultimately. So let's just start first and foremost to set the stage. We talk about physical reality, the world that we perceive with our senses, the world of matter is but 5% of the total universe. The rest of it is made up of dark energy, dark matter. We still don't even know what these things are. We only know that they exist from the effects that they create. But let's just not go down that rabbit hole right now. The 5% of reality, the physical world that we do experience, what we see, is what we call the visible light spectrum. Roy G. Biv, right? The colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. We see the visible light spectrum. That is but a small subset of the electromagnetic spectrum, which also has stuff like X-rays. We can't perceive them with our senses, but we have technology to identify them. We have radio waves, we have gamma rays, we have microwaves, we have ultraviolet light that we can't really perceive, but we can see the effects of when we get a sunburn. So the visible light spectrum is less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So again, we talk about seeing is believing, but what we really see is less than 1% of the already small sliver that we can perceive in matter. So we talk about seeing is believing, right? If we can see it with our eyes, then we can believe it in our mind. But that is like relying on a very limited mechanism and then using the data from that perception to determine that this is everything that is. Okay, now that sounds complicated. Think about having a calculator that is only capable of addition and subtraction. And then you use that calculator to determine that addition and subtraction is all that exists of mathematics. That would be an invalid assumption. But that is what we do when we rely on our 5 senses to determine what is real and what is not real. This is why in the ancient wisdom traditions, they talk about the Maya matrix, right? The world of illusion. The world of our senses is but an illusion. Einstein said reality is merely an illusion. A lot of the quantum physicist founding fathers say that reality is an illusion. And if quantum physics hasn't shocked you yet, then you don't understand quantum physics. I don't claim to understand it. I just understand a lot of the conclusions that they're arriving at is the same conclusion that a lot of these ancient wisdom traditions have arrived at thousands of years ago, right? In the Islamic tradition, they talk about dunya, they talk about the distraction, that it's just a world of distraction and adornment and a competition and having more children and increasing wealth. But that actually removes us from the hereafter. So it's about understanding first and foremost the world that you perceive with your senses is but an illusion, quite literally. And it is a very limited fragment. It's like the tip of the iceberg, the tip of the tip of the iceberg. And the foundational level of reality underneath is actually not even in our perception. So relying on our senses gives us a very limited perspective of what is really out there. So what do you do with this information? When we break it down to the foundational level, we see that atoms in and of themselves are 99.99999% empty space. And this is why even matter behaves very, very differently depending on what is being observed, right? So this is known as the wave particle duality in quantum physics. If you haven't seen the double slit experiment, I will link out to a video that goes in depth on this with Dr. Quantum. But basically, when physicists actually shot some electrons, which are particles of matter, through a wall with 2 slits in between them, then they observed what happened on the other side of that wall. And what they saw was astounding because those particles of matter were actually creating an interference pattern, which is signifying that they were a wave function rather than a particle of matter. So this is astounding because according to classical physics, a particle is either matter or it is a wave. It can't be both at the same time. So when they ran advanced mathematical analysis of this experiment, they found that the only way that a particle of matter could create a wave function on the other side was if that particle of matter went through one slit, went through both slits, went through none of the slits, and went through the other slit all at the same time. So this is known as a superposition of states. So it was just everything and nothing all at the same time. So this was astounding to them. So the physicists put a camera and they're like, okay, let's observe what's happening with these electrons as soon as they pass through the slits so that we can come to some conclusion as to what is going on over here. And then another astounding finding from that study was when they put the camera, they found that the particle of electron was actually behaving like a particle of matter on the other side. So when they put the camera, it was like matter. When they didn't have the camera and they observed it, it was like a wave function. So what is the conclusion from this? That reality in and of itself exists in a wave of endless possibilities until it is observed. And this is known as the collapse of the wave function. So these are the scientific studies that show us this mysterious universe that we live in right now. And the question is what you can do about it now that you have this understanding that, okay, the world of our senses is an illusion. Matter in and of itself is empty space that exists as a wave when it's not observed and as matter when it is observed. So what can we do with all of this? So this is where the theoretical part comes in. And again, I encourage you not to take everything that I say at face value, experiment with it yourself, see what results you experience as a result of that experiment, and arrive at your own conclusion. So these are teachings that I'm sharing with you from a lot of the wisdom traditions that I've learned about, a lot of the modern interpretations of these wisdom traditions. And it really comes down to fundamentally starting with the understanding of the parallel universe theory.
In fact, for us believing physicists, the distinction between the past, present, and future is but a stubborn illusion.
Time is not something that is moving, right? The past, present, and future, they exist at the same time. And it is us that are moving through that tunnel, which is time from the present into the future, back from the past, right? So it's actually existing at the same time. And I know this can be a bit mind boggling. It definitely is for me. And the reason I'm making this video is to wrap my head around these ideas myself. But what can you take away from this when we talk about the infinite parallel universes? It's basically this field of energy. Some call it the quantum field. In other traditions, they call it the alternative space. It can basically be described as the scripts and sceneries that contain the information for everything that ever was, is, or can be. So everything that ever is, was, or can be already exists. And the sector of the reality that manifests for you right now is the sector that you are tuned into through your thoughts and your emotions. I've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about this as well. He's done a lot of groundbreaking research on this. And he talks about how the sector of the field that becomes materialized for you is activated through, first and foremost, your thoughts, which send out an electric signal to this field, and then your emotions, which send out a magnetic signal that then attract those sectors to you that you experience in your physical world. Okay, so starting with that understanding, there is a reality that already exists. No matter what the possibility is, it exists. A reality in which you are strong, healthy, wealthy, you have great relationships, you are living the life that you imagine you want to be living, that already exists. So how do you tune into it? First and foremost, it comes through having the thoughts that are associated with that vision, and you tune in to that sector of the field with your thoughts, and then you allow those thoughts to generate an emotion that then attracts those to you. Okay, so I like the analogy of the head to the heart to the hands, right? To the hands to making it happen. So you have the vision in your head of what that reality is. You allow that vision to instigate certain emotions, and you feel a certain way. You feel the way that you would if that vision was already a reality. And then with your hands, you get to work to then put the causes into place so that the effect takes care of itself. Okay, so the reason that this is contrary to the way that classical physics, I mean, classical physics, Newtonian physics, the laws of gravity, they all definitely play a part. They are what have allowed us to make rockets and send them to the moon. But those assumptions are not valid when we look at what is happening at a foundational level, at the level of the atom, right? So when we subscribe to this notion of classical physics, we're like, I'm going to be happy when, right? I'll be happy when I achieve X. But with this new model of reality, what we are going at is that when you be happy, then you will get X, right? So it's a difference between seeing is believing to when you believe it, then you will see it, right? So there's a difference between letting your emotions be the effect of what you experience to you causing your emotions so that you can attract those effects to you. Okay, so start with your head, have the vision, allow that to instigate the emotions, and then get to work from that perspective and create the reality that you want, right? From the head to the heart to the hands. See it in your head, feel it in your heart, and get to work with your hands. This is a complete model. It's not just about visualizing, it's not just about hard work, it's not about either or, it's about both. And so let me know how this goes for you. If this is something you've already experimented with, I would love to see your results and hear about them in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, subscribe. And if you have anything else to share, definitely leave a comment. Let me know. I love hearing from you. All right. So hope this was helpful for you. See you in the next one.